Convicted of 3 murders, attacked his lawyer during today's sentencing. We told you in the summer when Kevin Sweat pleaded guilty to the murders of 2 girls from Walika and his fiancée.
Hello and welcome to Twisted Crimes. It was a bright Sunday afternoon in June 2008. Skyla Whitaker, age 11 at the time, and her best friend, Taylor Pascal Placker, age 13, were walking down a rural dirt road. They had taken that route together many times before, and that day, after a sleepover at Taylor's house, they were going to a riverbank to look for rocks and shells. But they didn't show up. The bodies of Skyla and Taylor, which had been shot, were found in a ditch next to a road.
County 911 state emergency. Yes, somebody killed 2 girls over my daughter, my grandbaby, and her daughter, her friend. What happened now, ma'am? I don't know. They went for a walk and they're both down here dead. They're dead. Your granddaughter? Yes, and her friend. Oh God, oh God.
The community and their families were shocked. They could not believe what had happened in their tiny little town of 1,000 residents. Even the cops did not understand. They put out a $25,000 reward for anyone with useful information.
We're working in concert to try to get this solved as quickly as possible. And we're going out and we're looking at specific details. Sometimes we're looking at timelines, other times we're going through criminal backgrounds.
Skyla was a daredevil who went most places without shoes. She loved animals so much that she wanted to be a veterinarian. Taylor also liked nature and wanted to be a forensic scientist like the ones she saw on TV. Their dreams ended when they were shot multiple times in the head and chest with 2 different guns not far from where Taylor lived with her grandfather in Walika, Oklahoma. Walika is a town in Okfuskee County, Oklahoma, United States. It is approximately 10 miles southeast of Okemah, the county seat. The name is a Creek word meaning running water. The small town has a population of around 1,000 residents. Skyla was shot 8 times, and Taylor was shot 5 times. There was no reason for the killing, and it was hard for the small rural community to figure out what had happened. Police found shell casings at the scene, but without a suspect, they couldn't figure out what gun they came from. Police talked to every violent criminal in the area, but no one could be linked to the murders, so the case was closed. Who killed the schoolgirls was a mystery for more than 3 years, until a dead woman led the police to the person who did it. In 2011, Kevin Sweat and his 23-year-old fiancée Ashley Taylor were making plans for their life together in the nearby town of Okmulgee. Their relationship wasn't always smooth sailing. A year ago, Kevin said on social media that getting engaged was the worst thing he had ever done. He was hard to predict and often wrote messages that were hard to understand. He had written before that he had a secret for everyone. He never told anyone what happened, but soon everyone would know. During that summer, Kevin told his friends that he and Ashley were running away to New Orleans. When he got back, he was by himself. Kevin said that they got into an argument and Ashley got out of the car and walked away. The story didn't make sense, so when Ashley's family reported her missing, the police looked into Kevin, a man who liked guns and knives a lot. It has been 2 years since the killing of the 2 girls and now a missing young lady. Residents were beginning to think the case of the 2 girls have gone cold even though the police have their eyes on Kevin.
For the 2 best friends who died that day in June of 2008, folks will never give up hope that their killer will surface.
Until somebody does talk, there isn't really much that can be done with it, except that it isn't a closed case. It's just a little old.
This is not a cold case. The reason being is we continue to get leads, so I don't want anyone to think this is a cold case. It's still being worked by a number of agents. That number differs every day depending on what kind of information we have to run on. We'll continue doing that until it's solved or we have no more leads to run.
I mean, I can't find a reason anymore to smile. I mean, I know no other way to explain it but pure hell. That girl meant everything to me. And even for the past year, I spent most time by myself.
But no reason is ever going to be good enough. There is nothing that can justify doing that to children like that.
Kevin told the police that he had cut Ashley's throat and pushed her into a lake when they asked him about it. The cops went to the lake in search of Ashley, but at the end of the search, there was no body or any evidence that she had been dumped there. It was a total waste of time and resources. They had a wild team of divers out there looking for Ashley but never found her. But when they looked in his father's backyard, they found a bonfire that had been burned down. The burned remains of a body were found in the ashes. There were also pieces of prescription glasses that seemed to be from Ashley's pair. But that wasn't all. Shell casings were found in the same backyard where Ashley's body was found a few days after her death. They were the same ones that were found next to the bodies of Skyla and Taylor in 2008. Ashley, the victim, led the police right to evidence that was very bad. The cops questioned him for a very lengthy period of time from there on.
Did the girls say something? Did the girls throw something? Or what happened? What happened that day that set you off?
There would be no point of shooting kids. I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen, there's no question. We know that you were there that day. We know that you were there that day when that happened with those two girls, okay? Because we have forensic evidence, Kevin, from the scene. We have your DNA. It's not an issue here whether you were there. We know that you were there. We know that you were responsible. Okay, we need to get over that. I need to know what happened that day. What happened? Just tell me what happened that day.
Look, first off, I don't know.
Listen, well, you do know, Kevin, because you were there. Did those girls do something to you? Did they say something to you? Did something set you off that day or what? There's no doubt about it, Kevin. There's no doubt about it that you were there and that you were responsible for it. That's not the issue there.
I've never met them. I've never even seen them before until I saw them on the news.
No, until that day, Kevin, okay, we know that you were there and that you were responsible for that.
After hours of denying, he finally cracked and was ready to talk to the police about what happened on that lonely road to those two girls.
I don't want to hear no lies. I didn't come here to hear lies. I came here to hear the truth. And we know that you were there. We know that you were responsible.
I'm guessing it was mental issues. I thought I was seeing shit.
Okay. Seeing what?
I don't know. Things. Monsters.
Okay. And what'd you do?
Panicked.
Okay. And
shot.
Okay, so you saw two demons. Is that what you're telling me?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin told the police that he had been on the dirt track that afternoon when he found out he was linked to the killings in 2008. He said that he pulled over because he saw two monsters coming at him. Kevin said that he had gotten scared, gotten a gun from between the seats, and shot the monsters. Then he got another gun out of the glove box and fired it.
I'd like to get rid of him. That's all I can say. I'd like him not to be on this earth anymore.
Kevin went to Okfuskee County District Court in July and pleaded guilty to 3 counts of murder in the first degree. When Kevin agreed to give up his right to a jury trial, the people who wanted to put him to death gave up on that idea. He would instead have a bench trial, in which a judge decides the verdict and sentence.
3 years, it's been a lot of heartache, a lot of pain.
Victims' families react as Kevin Sweat pleads guilty. He tells a judge today he murdered his fiancée in 2011 and 2 little girls years before that.
And with that plea comes an answer to a question that has troubled a small, close-knit community for 6 long years. Why were those 2 little girls killed on a lonely country road in broad daylight?
Our team coverage begins with Joe Hinkie.
Well, Russ and Karen, the reason state attorneys looked to show in court would have been revenge. And if Kevin Sweat had not entered this this guilty plea today, he would have entered a courtroom on Monday to stand trial. Now he only awaits his sentence. This courtroom at the Okfuskee County District Court, ready for a triple murder trial on Monday, will now remain empty. Sweat previously pled not guilty to all 3 murders, but one of Kevin Sweat's defense attorneys says he now entered a guilty plea today to avoid trial and causing more pain to the families of 3 victims.
And that was why he made the decision today to go ahead and end everything. And so I hope that that brings your family peace and the families of the other girls.
In the guilty plea, Sweat admits he killed his fiancée Ashley Taylor in 2011. And in 2008, 11-year-old Skyla Whitaker and 13-year-old Taylor Pascal Placker of Waleetka. These court documents, gathered today by 2 News, provide information about several witnesses set to be questioned during the trial. Claims are made of the Placker family selling drugs to Sweat's brother, and Sweat believing they led to his brother's overdose and death, which happened before Sweat killed Taylor Pascal Placker. Earlier this month, Sweat waived his right to a jury trial, taking the death penalty off the table. A district court judge alone would have heard the case and decided Sweat's sentence if found guilty. Now, a district court judge will decide Sweat's punishment without a court case. No date for sentencing is set.
In October of this year, Kevin and his lawyers went to the judge's chambers to talk about his sentence. When more evidence came out, Kevin found it hard to keep his temper in check. He pulled out a razor blade that he had sneaked into the courtroom and slashed one of his lawyers with it. Even though the injuries weren't life-threatening, the court was put on lockdown and sentencing had to be put off.
It is alleged that he produced a weapon, possibly a small razor blade that he had hidden.
The Okfuskee County DA says moments before the sentencing, Sweat attacked his lawyer with that blade, cutting him on the neck. Authorities don't know where he got the blade, but say Sweat was uncuffed. Is that standard?
It is not uncommon to be uncuffed when going into the courtroom. Usually with law enforcement.
Fox 23 was there as deputies brought Sweat into the courtroom after searching him for more weapons. You can see the bandage on his nose from when deputies tried to stop the attack.
When Kevin went back to court, he tried to take back his guilty plea, but the judge didn't let him. The judge then looked at Kevin, who was dressed in an orange jumpsuit and a bulletproof vest. Today is Judgment Day.
A man convicted of 3 murders is headed to prison. Today, a judge denied Kevin Sweat's chance for a new hearing. Sweat will spend his entire life in prison. In July, he entered a blind plea, saying that he's guilty for killing his fiancée and 2 young girls. Then last week, Sweat asked to withdraw that plea. He claims he only entered it to talk to the FBI. The victim's family has mixed feelings on Sweat avoiding the death penalty.
Yes and no, because I think there's a lot to be said about having to spend the rest of your life in jail and having to watch your back the rest of your life.
Well, Sweat won't go to prison before November 10th. He filed some paperwork to delay it, but Sweat faces more charges for cutting his attorney's neck with a razor.